If you're a fan of Alexander Romanov, KIRILL Kaprizov, or ILYA Sorokin, then stick around for this video because apparently, according to the news, these players can actually start practicing with their NHL teams. Assuming, of course, they actually end up signing a contract and burning the first year of that contract, which would be attached to 2019-20. However, there is still most likely not going to be any playing action between these players in Phase 3 or 4, just practices. So you can say what you want about whether or not that is a good thing or a bad thing, but to me, just having these players playing alongside of their NHL teams in practice scenarios could be seen as a very positive thing. We already made a video a few days ago talking about all three of these individual players, and what Bob McKenzie said on Twitter, which kind of just shut down and demoralized the entire fan bases of all these three teams that the players belong to, about how these players would not be able to suit up for the playoffs or the play-in series. It started out because yesterday Bill Guerin said that the NHL ruled that KIRILL Kaprizov, if signed for 2019-20, would indeed be able to come over for Phase 3 and 4 and can skate in practices. He would go with the team to Edmonton and be a part of the 31 players. Now, that tweet could be seen as ambiguous on the factor on whether or not he would actually be able to play in the games, but he will not be able to play in the games. That has already been established. Dave Pagnotta from the third period noted how this could, and likely will, affect the Habs and Romanov, and the Islanders and Sorokin. For what it's worth, he has been told that the Islanders and Sorokin have continued to make progress, and if he had to make an educated guess, he would likely say that they would have gotten things ironed out ahead of the deadline. As for Alexander Romanov, we have Renaud Lavoie over here, who posted about how there's bonne nouvelle pour Alexander Romanov. Let's translate that tweet over here. Good news for Alexander Romanov, who will join the Canadiens according to sources. He will be able to train with his new teammates when he can, but he will not be able to play. We can expect that his signing will indicate that his first year on the contract will be burnt. So Romanov will be able to be present for Phase 3 and Phase 4, but he will not be able to play. To rub a little bit more salt in the wound, we have ourselves Andrew Zadarnowski, who posted onto Twitter a few hours ago, Alexander Romanov has taken Karl Alzner's number 27 jersey number. Okay. We talked about Alzner just a few videos ago, how he opted out of the NHL's return-to-play protocol and will be sitting out the entire summer out of concerns due to the virus situation, which is totally understandable. It's just funny to me how Alexander Romanov comes in and immediately takes his jersey number, but he won't be able to end up actually playing. So, for those who need a little bit of a catch-up as to why this is actually important, let's go over first the three prospect profiles and then get into the whole idea behind these signings. KIRILL Kaprizov, we've already talked about it before, but he is the best hockey player in the world who is not playing in the NHL. The fact is, he's 23 years old, and he's Minnesota Wild property. He was really, really good in the KHL, over a point per game last year, and just under a point per game 2 seasons ago. And he's a guy who a lot of Minnesota Wild fans were saying, you know what, if we added this guy to our team, come the play-in series against the Vancouver Canucks, he would automatically be the most offensively lethal threat on the entire team. So, as a Vancouver Canucks fan, I'm very, very happy that he is staying far away from the Vancouver Canucks. Kaprizov, though, playing with NHL-caliber players in practices and learning the ropes certainly would benefit from that kind of exposure once the NHL season comes back in December or January, whenever it comes back. And this guy could immediately become an instant runner-up for the Calder Trophy next year. This could be like another Panarin situation. If you were watching hockey back in 2015-16, when Connor McDavid made his debut with the Edmonton Oilers, but he was sidelined because Brandon freaking Manning. But Artemi Panarin was the brand new guy from Russia. He signed with the Blackhawks. He was dubbed the right-handed Patrick Kane for a good portion of that year, and he got 70 points and he won the Calder. Yeah, we could legitimately see something like that from KIRILL Kaprizov. He's just so good, such a strong player, and this guy is going to come into the league and start putting up points. So you could understand the frustration from the Wild fan base as to why this guy wouldn't be allowed to play on your team in the play-in series. Sure, a lot of Wild fans on the other hand said, okay, it's good that he's not playing because that means we're going to lose. Give us Lafreniere, and that's something that we've talked about in another video too. Teams tanking for Lafreniere and players never actually committing to that idea, but the fan bases of the teams wanting their players to commit to that idea, it's pretty funny. But if the Minnesota Wild end up getting Lafreniere and they get Kaprizov too in the same offseason, then oh boy, this team could be an instant number 1, number 2 team in the Central come next season. I don't know if I want to think about that all too hard, so let's move over onto the next guy. It's Alexander Romanov. Yes, if you're a Habs fan and you're watching this video, you don't need me to tell you about Alexander Romanov now, don't you? This guy has been a highly touted Montreal Canadiens prospect ever since the World Juniors in 2019. Sure, he was taken in the 2nd round when he probably should have been taken in the 5th round when considering everybody else's opinion from the 2018 draft 2 years ago, but Romanov has quickly proved himself as a very valuable piece on the Montreal Canadiens defensive prospect blue line because his offensive prowess, his dominance, and his overall maturity displayed against other U20-year-olds, combined with the stabilization he played for CSKA Moscow, one of the best KHL teams in that league, certainly puts a lot of smiles on a lot of Habs fans' faces. The fact that a 19, 20-year-old player can establish such a garnered reputation that he is trusted amongst tough hockey environments like CSKA Moscow can be, especially the young guys too. So this was a player who, coming into the play-in series, a lot of Habs fans said, you know what, if we added this guy to our roster, he could honestly be a top 6, top 4 defender who could load up on the PK and actually do some effective things. Now, we won't be able to see that because he's not going to be able to play, but again, just like with Kaprizov, having him play with the team in practices, actually get exposure to what it's like being on this team, certainly would not be a bad thing. Whether or not the contract and burning off the first year on that contract is a good thing or a bad thing to you, that's up for debate. But that's what we're going to have to deal with if we're going to have to sign these players over here, and it's an inevitability that we can't avoid. And furthermore, going on to Ilya Sorokin, this guy has the potential to become a star in the NHL by the time he hits, I don't know, 26, 27 years old, which isn't too far away. Igor Shesterkin is a guy who totally took over the New York Rangers this past season, and Ilya Sorokin looks to have been able to do the same thing for an Islanders team that had Greiss and Varlamov, who weren't amazing in their own right, but who certainly weren't terrible. Sorokin, just as one of the best goalies in the world who is not playing in the NHL, certainly had a piece of hype attached to him that could put him in that same boat as an Igor Shesterkin had in the previous few months. As a guy who is 24, and as a guy whom the analysts are saying have gotten progress with their NHL team, Sorokin is probably the one who, if I had to guess, the team's respective fan base is probably the most upset with losing for this play-in series. Not because Kaprizov wouldn't be amazing against the Canucks or that Romanov wouldn't be a good, honestly, very capable player against the Penguins, but mostly because Sorokin would give the Islanders the best chance to win against the Panthers when compared to Romanov to the Habs and Kaprizov to the Wild. And furthermore, most Wild fans wouldn't even want to win anyway. They want Lafreniere. We already talked about that. But because the news has come out that each of these 3 players is going to actually be able to sign, burn off that first year, and actually practice with their teams in Phase 3 or 4, that is significant to me, and it's why I wanted to make this video here today. Sure, they may not be able to play in the playoffs, and we've talked about that several times before. But just getting them under contract and solidifying the fact that yes, they're going to be in this organization for the next 3 years at the minimum, or, you know what, not 3, 2, I mean, because they're going to burn off the first year, that's certainly something that people should be excited for as well, because all 3 of these players could be NHL impact talents as soon as December or January once the next NHL season rolls around. So if you're a fan of any of these 3 teams or their situations or the prospects, Romanov and the Habs, Kaprizov and the Wild, Sorokin and the Islanders, then tell me what you think in the comments below about these prospects and what they could bring. And furthermore, does it hurt not seeing them suit up for your team in the play-in series? That's a very interesting discussion I'd like to have too, because I know different fans have different perspectives and different answers to that question in general. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to say in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.